The shattered wine glass at my feet mirrored my fractured world. I stood frozen in the doorway of our bedroom, my eyes fixed on the tangled sheets and intertwined bodies of my husband Jason and my younger sister Mia. Lila! Jason bolted upright, his face a mask of shock and guilt. This isn't, we... Mia scrambled to cover herself, her eyes darting between Jason and me. Sis, I can explain. Don't. My voice was ice. Don't you dare call me that. I turned on my heel, my mind reeling as I stumbled down the stairs. The sound of frantic footsteps and hushed arguing followed me. Lila, wait! Jason's voice called out, closer now. Please, let's talk about this. I whirled around at the bottom of the stairs, my anger finally finding its voice. Talk? You want to talk now? After I catch you in bed with my sister? Jason reached for me, but I jerked away. Don't touch me, I hissed. Mom? My daughter Alice's concerned voice came from the living room. What's going on? I looked at my beautiful, perceptive 17-year-old, her brow furrowed with worry. How could I shield her from this mess? Nothing, sweetie, I lied, my voice trembling. Just a misunderstanding. Bullshit, Alice said, her eyes narrowing as she took in the scene. Me, shaking with rage, and her father wearing nothing but hastily donned sweatpants. Mia chose that moment to appear, wrapped in Jason's robe. Alice's eyes widened in understanding, that then hardened with disgust. How could you? She spat at her father and aunt. Jason ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Alice, honey, it's complicated. No, it's not, I cut in, finding strength in my daughter's presence. It's actually very simple. Your father and your aunt betrayed us both. Mia stepped forward, her eyes pleading. Lila, please, we never meant for this to happen. It just did. I laughed bitterly. Things don't just happen, Mia. You make choices, and you two made the choice to destroy our family. That's not fair, Jason protested weakly. Fair? I advanced on him, my voice rising. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you promised to love and cherish me till death do us part? Was it fair when you welcomed my sister into our home, knowing full well what you were doing behind my back? Alice moved to stand beside me, her hand finding mine and squeezing it tight. Mom's right, she said, her voice steady. You don't get to play the victim here, Dad. Jason's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But his words were hollow, and we all knew it. 23 years of marriage, and this was what it had come to. Apologies that meant nothing, and a family torn apart by betrayal. I want you both out, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Now. Lila, please, Mia begged. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, I replied coldly. You should have thought about that before you climbed into bed with my husband. Jason reached for me again, his eyes desperate. Lila, we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can... There is no we anymore, Jason. I cut him off. Get out of my house. As Jason and Mia retreated upstairs to gather their things, I sank onto the couch, the weight of what had just happened finally hitting me. Alice sat beside me, her arm around my shoulders. What are we going to do now, Mom? She asked softly. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I don't know, sweetheart, but we'll figure it out together. As I heard Jason and Mia's footsteps on the stairs, a cold determination settled over me. They thought they could walk all over me, destroy everything I held dear. But they had no idea what I was capable of. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I stood up, straightening my spine. Alice, call Aunt Brenda. Tell her we need her help. My daughter nodded, a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. As she reached for her phone, I steeled myself for the confrontation to come. Jason and Mia had made their choices. Now it was time for me to make mine. I clutched the faded photograph, my fingers tracing the outlines of our younger selves. Jason and I, barely in our 20s, grinning at the camera with our whole lives ahead of us. How did we end up here? Mom? Alice's voice snapped me back to reality. Aunt Brenda's here. I tucked the photo away and headed downstairs, where my best friend waited with open arms. Oh, honey, Brenda said, enveloping me in a hug. I came as soon as Alice called. What happened? I took a shaky breath. Jason, he's been having an affair with Mia. Brenda's eyes widened. Your sister? That bastard. I caught them together, I said, the words still bitter on my tongue, in our bed. Jesus, Brenda muttered. Where are they now? I kicked them out, I replied, a hint of pride creeping into my voice. Brenda squeezed my hand. Good for you. Now, what's the plan? I hesitated. I don't know. Everything's happening so fast. Well, first things first, Brenda said decisively. We need to protect your assets. Have you checked your accounts? The thought hadn't even occurred to me. I rushed to my laptop, logging into our joint account. My heart sank as I stared at the screen. It's empty, I whispered. He cleaned it out, Alice gasped. Dad wouldn't do that, would he? But the evidence was right there in black and white. Our savings, gone. 23 years of marriage, and this was what it had come to. That son of a bitch, Brenda hissed. Lila, you need to call a lawyer, now. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. Jason's name flashed on the screen. I answered, my voice cold. What do you want? Lila, please, he begged. Can we talk? I made a mistake. A mistake? I cut him off. Is that what you call emptying our bank account? There was a pause. I panicked. I thought you might try to take everything. I laughed bitterly. So you decided to beat me to it? How noble of you, Jason. It's not like that, he protested. I love you, Lila. We can work this out. Love? The word tasted like ash in my mouth. If this is your idea of love, I want no part of it. I hung up, my hand shaking. Brenda and Alice watched me, concern etched on their faces. He says he loves me, I said, my voice hollow. After everything he's done. Brenda snorted. Men. They think I love you is some magic phrase that fixes everything. Alice sat beside me, her young face serious. Mom, what are we going to do about money? Reality crashed down on me. With our savings gone and my part-time job at the library, how would we manage? We'll figure it out, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I'll pick up extra shifts, maybe look for a better-paying job. I can get a job too, Alice offered, to help out. My heart swelled with love for my daughter. No, sweetheart, you focus on school. I'll handle this. Brenda cleared her throat. Actually, I might have a solution. My company's looking for a new office manager. The pay's good, and I could put in a good word for you. Hope flickered in my chest. Really, Brenda, that would be amazing. It's the least I can do, she said, squeezing my hand. We'll get through this together. As we started discussing the details, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Mia. Lila, please, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. Can we talk? I stared at the phone, torn between anger and the instinct to comfort my little sister. But the image of her in bed with Jason flashed through my mind, and I made my decision. There's nothing to talk about, I said coldly, and hung up. I turned back to Brenda and Alice, my resolve strengthening. Okay, I said, squaring my shoulders. Let's figure out our next move. As we huddled around the kitchen table plotting our strategy, I felt a spark of something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Jason and Mia might have betrayed me, but I wasn't alone. And I was far from defeated. Little did they know, this was just the beginning. They'd soon learn that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, especially when that woman has a brilliant daughter and a fiercely loyal best friend by her side. The interview at Brenda's company went better than I dared hope. As I walked out of the office building, a weight lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in days, I felt a glimmer of optimism. My phone buzzed. Alice's name flashed on the screen. Mom, you need to come home. Now. Her voice was tight with tension. What's wrong? I asked, my heart racing. It's Dad and Aunt Mia. They're here. I clenched my fist. I'm on my way. The drive home was a blur. I burst through the front door to find Jason and Mia sitting in our living room, Alice glaring at them from across the coffee table. What the hell are you doing here? I demanded. Jason stood up, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Lila, please, we just want to talk. There's nothing to talk about, I snapped. I told you both to stay away. Mia's eyes were red-rimmed. Sis, please, we made a terrible mistake, but... Don't call me that, I cut her off. You lost the right to call me sis when you slept with my husband. Alice moved to stand beside me, her presence a comforting anchor. Mom's right, you both need to leave. Jason's face hardened. Alice, this is between your mother and me. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Alice shot back. I understand that you betrayed Mom, that you stole her money, and that you're trying to weasel your way back in. I felt a surge of pride for my daughter's fierce loyalty. It's not that simple, Mia pleaded. Jason and I, we have feelings for each other. The words hit me like a physical blow. Feelings? You expect me to care about your feelings? Jason reached for me. Lila, we never meant to hurt you. It just happened. I recoiled from his touch. Things don't just happen, Jason. You made choices. Now you have to live with the consequences. What about our family? He asked, desperation creeping into his voice. What about everything we've built together? You should have thought about that before you destroyed it all, I replied coldly. Mia stood up, tears streaming down her face. Lila, please, you're my sister. We've always been there for each other. Can't we find a way to work through this? For a moment, I wavered. Memories of our childhood, of the times we'd supported each other through thick and thin, flashed through my mind. But then I remembered the sight of her in bed with Jason, and my resolve hardened. No, Mia, we can't. You crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Jason's face darkened. Fine. If that's how you want to play it, we'll settle this in court. I'll fight for half of everything we own. I laughed bitterly. Good luck with that. You already emptied our bank account, remember? His eyes widened in surprise. How did you? It doesn't matter, I cut him off. What matters is that you've shown your true colors. Now get out of my house. As Jason and Mia reluctantly headed for the door, Alice called out, Wait! We all turned to look at her. She held up her phone, a triumphant gleam in her eye. I recorded everything you just said, she announced. About your feelings for each other, about Dad stealing the money, all of it. Jason's face paled. Alice, you can't. I can, and I did, she replied firmly. If you try to take Mom to court, if you try to claim a single penny more from her, this recording goes to your lawyer, and to Grandma and Grandpa. Mia gasped. You wouldn't. Alice's gaze was steely. Try me. As Jason and Mia slunk out, thoroughly defeated, I pulled Alice into a fierce hug. I can't believe you did that, I whispered. She hugged me back just as tightly. Nobody messes with my mom. As we stood there holding each other, I felt a surge of determination. Jason and Mia thought they could walk all over us, but they were wrong. We were stronger than they knew, and we were just getting started. I pulled back, looking into Alice's eyes. We need to call Brenda, I said. It's time to plan our next move. The manila envelope felt heavy in my hands as I sat at the kitchen table, my heart pounding. Brenda had come through, hiring a private investigator to dig into Jason and Mia's affair. Now, the truth lay before me, waiting to be unveiled. Are you sure you want to do this, Mom? Alice asked, her voice laced with concern. I nodded, my jaw set. I need to know everything. With trembling fingers, I opened the envelope and spread its contents across the table. Photos, bank statements, and a detailed report stared back at me, each piece a dagger to my heart. The photos came first, Jason and Mia at a cozy restaurant, holding hands across the table. Another showed them entering a hotel, his arm wrapped possessively around her waist. But it was the timestamp on the images that made my blood run cold. This one's from last year, I whispered, my voice barely audible. They've been lying to me for over a year. Alice's hand found mine, squeezing it tight. I'm so sorry, Mom. I forced myself to continue, flipping through bank statements that revealed a pattern of withdrawals and suspicious purchases. A diamond necklace I'd never received, weekend getaways I'd never been on. He's been using our money to fund their affair, I said, anger rising in my chest. But it was the final page of the report that delivered the crushing blow. A copy of a lease agreement signed by both Jason and Mia for an apartment across town. They were planning to move in together, I realized, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. They were going to leave us, Alice. My daughter's face hardened. Then we'll beat them to it. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Jason. We need to talk. Can I come over? I showed Alice the message, my mind racing. What should I do? She straightened up, a determined glint in her eye. Let him come. It's time he faced the consequences of his actions. An hour later, Jason walked through the door, his face a mask of false contrition. Lila, I cut him off, gesturing to the evidence spread across the table. Save it, Jason. I know everything. His eyes widened as he took in the photos, the bank statements, the lease agreement. How did you? It doesn't matter, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. What matters is that you've been lying to me, to us, for over a year. Jason's shoulders slumped. I never meant for it to go this far. Mia and we just connected, and... Stop, I held up a hand. I don't want to hear your excuses. What I want to know is why you're really here. He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded document. My lawyer drew up divorce papers. I thought, maybe we could handle this amicably. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Amicably? After you emptied our bank account? After you used our money to wine and dine my sister? Mom, Alice interjected, her voice tight with anger. Show him. I nodded, sliding the lease agreement across the table. Were you going to tell us about your little love nest, Jason? Or were you just going to disappear one day? The color drained from his face. Lila, I can explain. No need. I cut him off. I think I understand perfectly. You and Mia had it all planned out, didn't you? Drain our accounts, move in together, start your new life. Jason's eyes darted between Alice and me, desperation creeping into his voice. Please, we can work this out. I'll do anything. You're right about one thing, I said, standing up. We are going to handle this, but not on your terms. I picked up the divorce papers, tearing them in half. I'll be filing for divorce, Jason, but it'll be on my terms, Dap, and trust me, after everything you've done, you won't like what's coming. As Jason stumbled out of the house, shell-shocked and defeated, I turned to Alice. Her eyes shone with a mixture of pride and determination. What now, Mom? I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. Now, we fight back, and we win. The lawyer's office felt suffocating as I sat across from Jason, our respective attorneys flanking us. The mediation was supposed to be a step towards an amicable divorce, but the tension in the room was palpable. Mrs. Thompson, Jason's lawyer began, his voice oily smooth. My client is willing to be generous in the division of assets, given the circumstances of your separation. I bristled at his condescending tone. Generous? After he drained our joint account? Jason had the decency to look ashamed, but his lawyer pressed on. Mr. Thompson is prepared to offer a 50-50 split of all remaining assets, including the house and his retirement fund. My attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Karen, leaned forward. And what about the money Mr. Thompson withdrew without my client's knowledge? Jason's lawyer waved a dismissive hand. Water under the bridge. We're here to move forward, not dwell on the past. I felt my blood begin to boil, but Karen's steady presence kept me grounded. We'd prepared for this. Actually, Karen said, sliding a folder across the table, we have some concerns about Mr. Thompson's financial disclosures. As Jason and his lawyer pored over the documents, I watched their faces change. Shock, then anger, then fear flitted across Jason's features. Where did you get this information? His lawyer demanded. Karen's smile was razor-sharp. Let's just say Mrs. Thompson has friends in high places. Now shall we discuss the real numbers? What followed was a brutal dissection of Jason's hidden assets, accounts I'd never known about, investments made behind my back, and a startling revelation about his true income. You've been hiding money for years, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. All those times you said we couldn't afford things for Alice, for our future. Jason couldn't meet my eyes. Leela, I can explain. Save it, I snapped. I think you've done enough talking. As the meeting dragged on, the full extent of Jason's deception became clear. He'd been squirreling away money for years, building a nest egg I'd known nothing about, and now he wanted to claim half of our visible assets on top of it all. This changes everything, Karen said as we left the office. With this evidence, we can push for a much more favorable settlement. I nodded, my mind reeling. What's our next move? We go on the offensive, she replied. File for divorce immediately, citing financial infidelity along with the affair. We'll freeze all assets and demand a full accounting. As I drove home, my emotions warred within me. Anger at Jason's betrayal, fear for our financial future, and a growing determination to come out on top. Alice was waiting when I arrived, her face anxious. How did it go? I sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. Your father's been lying about more than just the affair. He's hidden money from us for years. Her eyes widened. What are we going to do? Fight, I said, my resolve strengthening. We're going to fight with everything we've got. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Mia. Please, can we talk? There's something you need to know. I stared at the message, torn between curiosity and lingering anger. What more could she possibly have to say? Mom? Alice's voice pulled me back. What is it? I showed her the text, watching as her brow furrowed. Are you going to meet her? I hesitated, weighing my options. On one hand, Mia had betrayed me in the worst possible way. On the other, if she had information that could help our case against Jason, I think I have to, I said finally. But I'm not going alone. Will you come with me? Alice nodded, her jaw set in determination. Of course, we're in this together. As we prepared to face Mia, I felt a strange mix of dread and anticipation. Whatever she had to say, I knew it would change everything. But for better or worse, I was ready. Jason and Mia had underestimated me for the last time. Now it was my turn to show them what I was truly capable of. The cafe bustled around us, but I barely noticed the noise. My eyes were fixed on Mia, who sat across from me, fidgeting with her coffee cup. Alice sat beside me, a silent pillar of support. "I'm glad you came," Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's something you need to know about Jason." I steeled myself. "What is it?" Mia took a deep breath. "He's been embezzling from his company. That's where all the extra money has been coming from." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "What? How do you know this?" "He told me," Mia admitted, shame coloring her cheeks. "He said it was to build a better life for us. But Lila, I think he's in deep trouble. The company's starting to investigate." My mind raced. This changed everything, not just for our divorce, but for Jason's entire future. And by extension, Alice's. "Why are you telling me this now?" I demanded, Mia's eyes filled with tears. "Because I realized what a horrible mistake I've made. Jason, he's not the man I thought he was, and I've ruined everything for a lie." Part of me wanted to reach out to comfort my little sister, but the wound was still too raw. "You're right," I said coldly. "You have ruined everything, but thank you for telling me." As we left the cafe, Alice grabbed my arm. "Mom, what are we going to do?" I squared my shoulders. "We're going to see Brenda. Now." An hour later, we sat in Brenda's living room, laying out everything we'd learned. Her face grew grimmer with each revelation. "Lila, honey, this is serious," she said. "If Jason goes down for embezzlement, it could affect you and Alice too. They might try to seize assets, even if they're in your name." Panic clawed at my throat. "What can we do?" Brenda leaned forward, her eyes intense. "I have a friend in the DA's office. If we move fast, we might be able to get ahead of this. But Lila, it means turning Jason in." The weight of the decision pressed down on me. Turn in my husband, the father of my child? But if I didn't, we could lose everything. "Mom," Alice said softly, "I think we have to do it. Dad made his choices. We shouldn't have to pay for them." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of resolve and heartbreak. "You're right. Let's do it." The next few days were a whirlwind. Meetings with lawyers, late-night strategy sessions with Brenda, and tense conversations with Alice about our uncertain future. Through it all, I felt like I was walking a tightrope, one misstep away from disaster. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, it all came crashing down. I was at my new job, the one Brenda had helped me get, when my phone exploded with notifications. News alerts, texts from friends, and a frantic call from Alice. "Mom, turn on the TV," she said, her voice shaking. "They've arrested Dad." I rushed to the break room where a small crowd had already gathered around the television. There, in vivid color, was Jason being led out of his office in handcuffs. The ticker at the bottom of the screen screamed, "Local businessmen arrested for embezzlement." My coworkers turned to stare at me, their faces a mix of pity and curiosity. I felt exposed, raw, as if my entire life was being broadcast for the world to see. As I stumbled back to my desk, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "How could you do this to me?" "To us? You'll regret this, Lila. I swear you will. Jason." Even now, he was trying to intimidate me, to make me feel guilty for his crimes. I sank into my chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had just happened. We'd set this in motion, Alice and I. We'd chosen to fight back, to protect ourselves. But as the reality of our new situation settled in, I couldn't help but wonder. At what cost? My hands shook as I picked up my phone to call Alice. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. We had to. Because now, more than ever, we were all we had left. The courtroom felt suffocating as I sat beside my lawyer, watching Jason in his orange jumpsuit. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of legal meetings, press conferences, and sleepless nights. Now it all came down to this moment. "Your Honor," the prosecutor began, "the state has overwhelming evidence of Mr. Prowl Thompson's embezzlement. We're prepared to offer a plea deal." Jason's lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently. I watched as Jason's face crumpled, then hardened. He nodded once, decisively. "Your Honor," his lawyer said, standing, "my client wishes to change his plea to guilty." A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. I felt Alice's hand tighten around mine as the judge accepted the plea and set a date for sentencing. As we left the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. "Mrs. Thompson, How do you feel about your husband's guilty plea? Did you know about the embezzlement? What about your sister's involvement? I pushed through the crowd, my heart pounding. Alice and I barely made it to the car before breaking down. It's over, I whispered, holding my daughter close. It's finally over. But it wasn't. Not really. The next morning, I woke to a flurry of text messages from Brenda. Turn on the news. Now. I fumbled for the remote, my blood running cold as I saw Mia's face on the screen. I was manipulated, she was saying, tears streaming down her face. Jason Thompson used me, just like he used everyone else. I had no idea about the embezzlement. I'm as much a victim as anyone. Rage boiled inside me. How dare she play the victim after everything she'd done? My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Mia herself. Lila, please, I know you're angry, but I need your help. Jason's lawyers are coming after me. They're saying I was complicit. I could lose everything. I stared at the message, torn between lingering anger and a lifetime of sisterly instinct. Before I could respond, another crisis hit. An email from my bank. Urgent notice, account frozen. Panic clawed at my throat as I called the bank. I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson, the manager said, his voice tinged with pity. It's a court order. All assets connected to your husband are being investigated. I hung up, my mind reeling. Our savings, our future, all of it was in jeopardy. Alice found me an hour later, still staring blankly at my phone. Mom, what's wrong? I looked up at my daughter, so strong, so resilient. How could I tell her that we might lose everything? Our accounts are frozen, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. And Aunt Mia, she's trying to play the victim. Alice's face hardened. We can't let her get away with that. We have proof of her involvement, right? I nodded slowly. But if we use it, it could make things worse for us financially. The courts might see it as us hiding evidence. So what do we do? Alice asked, her voice small. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Jason's lawyer. Mrs. Thompson, he said, his voice oily smooth. My client would like to speak with you. He says he has a proposition that could solve all your problems. I felt a chill run down my spine. What kind of proposition? One that could clear your accounts, keep you out of the investigation, and ensure a comfortable future for you and your daughter. All he asks is that you stand by him publicly. Paint a picture of a loving, supportive wife who knew nothing of his misdeeds. The offer dangled before me, tempting in its simplicity. With one public statement, I could secure our future. But at what cost? I'll think about it, I said, my voice trembling. As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked tired, beaten down. But beneath the exhaustion, I saw a flicker of the strength that had gotten me this far. I turned to Alice, my resolve hardening. We're not giving up, I said firmly. Not now, not ever. But as the words left my mouth, I couldn't shake the nagging doubt. In the face of financial ruin, betrayal from all sides, and a future more uncertain than ever, had I finally reached my breaking point? Or would this be the moment that defined who I truly was? The visiting room at the prison felt cold and sterile as I sat across from Jason, his orange jumpsuit a stark reminder of how far we'd fallen. His eyes, once so familiar, now seemed like those of a stranger. Lila, he began, his voice hoarse. Thank you for coming. I need your help. I steeled myself, remembering all the pain he'd caused. What do you want, Jason? He leaned forward, desperation etched on his face. I can't do this. The trial, the sentencing. I need you to speak on my behalf. Tell them I was a good husband, a good father. Please, Lila, for old time's sake. For a moment I wavered. Despite everything, a part of me still remembered the man I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. But then I thought of Alice, of the life we were rebuilding, and my resolve hardened. No, Jason, I said firmly. I won't lie for you, not anymore. His face darkened. You owe me, Lila. After all we've been through. I don't owe you anything, I cut him off. You made your choices. Now you have to live with them. As I stood to leave, Jason grabbed my arm. If you walk away now, you'll regret it. I'll make sure of it. I jerked away, my heart pounding. Goodbye, Jason. Outside, I found Alice waiting, her face anxious. How did it go? I took a deep breath. It's over. Really over. As we drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia. I'm sorry for everything. Can we talk? I showed Alice the message, torn between lingering anger and the pull of family ties. It's your decision, Mom, Alice said softly. But remember, we're stronger together. Her words echoed in my mind as we pulled into our driveway. To my surprise, Brenda was waiting on the porch, a determined look on her face. "I've got news," she said as we approached. Big news. Inside, Brenda laid out a stack of documents. "Remember that friend I have in the DA's office? Well, she did some digging. Turns out Jason had a secret account we didn't know about. And guess whose name is on it?" My heart skipped a beat. "Mia's?" Brenda nodded. "They were in it together, Lila. All of it." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My sister, my own flesh and blood, had been complicit in Jason's crimes all along. "What do we do now?" Alice asked, her voice small. I looked at my daughter, then at Brenda, feeling a surge of gratitude for the true family I had left. In that moment, I made my decision. "We tell the truth," I said firmly. "All of it. No more lies, no more cover-ups." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal meetings and court appearances. I testified about Jason's crimes, about Mia's involvement, holding nothing back. It was painful, exposing our family's darkest secrets, but with each word, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. On the day of Jason's sentencing, I stood before the judge, my voice steady. "Your Honor, I'm not here to defend my husband's actions. He made his choices, and now he must face the consequences. But I am here to speak for myself, for my daughter, and for all those who were betrayed by his actions. We're ready to move forward, to rebuild our lives, without the shadow of his crimes hanging over us." As the judge handed down his sentence, 15 years with no possibility of early parole, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. It was the end of a chapter, but also the beginning of a new one. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for a statement. But this time, I didn't run. I stood tall, Alice by my side, and faced the cameras. "We've been through hell," I said, my voice clear and strong, "but we've come out stronger. To anyone out there facing betrayal, facing seemingly insurmountable odds, I want you to know you're not alone, and you're stronger than you know." As we walked away hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in months I felt hope. We had weathered the storm, faced our demons, and come out the other side. Looking at Alice, seeing the strength and resilience in her eyes, I knew we would be okay. More than okay. We would thrive, because sometimes it's only when everything falls apart that you discover what you're truly made of. And I, Lila Thompson, was made of steel.